Hey guys, welcome back. And we are joined by the mock draft guy. And the draft combine has been going on for the last few days, and there's been some major risers and fallers, some guys who have really helped their stock, really hurt their stock. And we're going to be talking about some of the biggest winners and losers from the weekend. So, how are you doing today?
I'm good, man. I'm excited to talk about the combine. This is usually something we talk all the time. Something that I don't usually look too much at for the most part in terms of rising and falling, but I do think this year is an outlier. A lot of guys have really boosted their draft stock. Some guys have fallen pretty far or flat on their face. So I'm excited to get into it for this one.
So if you guys are new to the channel, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. I'll leave all of the mock draft guys stuff posted down in the description. Also, we just hit 2,000 subscribers today. So a big thank you to everybody who has joined the community, and much more to come. This is only the beginning. So we're going to get into some of the winners. But before we do that, let's talk about some guys that aren't going to be on the official slides here. We made the slides before the offensive linemen tested today. So who were some of the biggest standouts to you from the offensive line side of the ball?
In terms of guys that we already knew that they were going to be good pros, but like just kind of boosted their draft stock that much more. You got to figure that Joe Alt, you got to figure Amarius Mims, just athletic freaks. I mean, we just talked about it. Joe Alt, 6'9", 321 pounds, moving as fast as he did. His RAS score was fantastic. I don't remember what it was off the top of my head, but it was up there. Same thing with Amarius Mims. Seems like the freakiest offensive lineman we've seen in quite some time. The way that he was moving on his 40, his numbers are off the charts. I mean, someone that's 6'7", 340 pounds, and he's lean too. I mean, we've seen pictures all over Twitter of him standing next to people. He is not a fat 340 pounds. He's someone that probably looks like he's around 290 for his size. So you got to figure he is a huge winner. What about you? I know you had a couple guys that you wanted to talk about.
Well, I do want to talk about Mims because he ran, I believe, a 5'2"?
507, I think it was.
507.40 for Amarius Mims is absolutely ridiculous for a guy of his size. I think we could be looking back in 3 to 5 years and be like, how was Amarius Mims not the top tackle in this class? Because I know there's limited playing experience there with him, but when he's been on the field for Georgia, he has been absolutely stellar for the Bulldogs. I think Troy Fautanu was one of the biggest, impressed me a lot, actually. Just we knew how good of an athlete he is. We know how well he can move. But the arm length was what was really impressive. I believe 34-inch arms.
Yeah.
He got the tackle size. And a lot of people were saying, oh, Fautanu is a guy that you're going to take and move him to guard, which I still think he has that versatility. But I think it's going to give NFL teams more comfortability now knowing you can keep him there at the tackle position. And then a guy way down the board who really impressed was Frank Crum from Wyoming, a guy who I'm going to have to do a full evaluation on, but I remember hearing some stuff from the Shrine Bowl about him being an interesting prospect, and he tested out really well at the combine, moved exceptionally well, good size. I think he's a guy that I think really helped his stock.
Yeah, and you look at, there's always one guy from a smaller school that always, a couple of years ago it was Ben Barch, a few years before that was Quinn Miners as well. Like there's always guys from like, I believe Quinn Miners was from Wisconsin Whitewater or something like that, like a super small school, Division II or even D3. I don't remember off the top of my head, but there's always that one guy that always is down the board that kind of rises his draft stock. Crum is someone that, I mean, he looks like he's in a Leonard Skinner cover band. The guy is just like, he looks awesome too. So that's one of those guys to look out for, maybe early day 3 now, possibly. So he's definitely someone. What I mean by when I don't use the combine as someone that as a tool that rises a lot of players, what I mean by that is when we look at those top guys, like when we look at someone like Joe Alt, right? Like how much further is his stock going to go from a good combine performance? He's probably going to get drafted in the same exact spot. Yeah. The combine is really for these guys like a Frank Crum that, you know what, maybe he was a UDFA before today. Now we could see him in the 5th or 6th round. You know what I mean? Like that really holds some value for these smaller school guys. So that's really what I mean by that. It's really, to me, it's more of a confirmation of what we see on tape. I always think that game tape is the end all be all for the most part. What you're going to do, game tape is what you're going to do in the NFL with some minor adjustments here and there. But yeah, Crum tested out really well. Someone really from the offensive line group, I think it's tough to evaluate the offensive line combines, especially guys doing bad. I think one guy that kind of disappointed me was Drake Nugent. Came in under 300 pounds, didn't really measure out as well as I thought he would. So he's someone that kind of reminds me of a Tyler Biadasz, someone that could be a serviceable center, but he's going to consistently be in the lap of his quarterback just because he's one of those smaller bodied guys. So I think his draft stock took a hit, but other than some fallers from the offensive line group, I can't really think of anyone else off the top of my head.
One other guy I wanted to mention was Garrett Greenfield from South Dakota State, a guy that I admittedly, after turning on the tape, I was like, he's very loose. I don't feel like he's the tightest in his adjustments and different things, but he's a guy that had a great Shrine Bowl, and he had a really good combine today, posting the highest vertical in history, I believe, for the offensive lineman. So superstar athlete, and he's got loads of experience on that offensive line. So that could be a guy that we could see go in the 5th round, and I wouldn't bat an eye at that.
Absolutely. Him and Mason McCormick are two guys on that South Dakota State line that have over 3,000 offensive snaps to their name. So absolutely incredible experience. That's something that holds some real value to me, is the experience factor. A lot of people think, oh, well, you'd want a younger guy that maybe has like around the 2,000 or 1,800 snaps, something like that. Give me the guy that's got more experience, because the offensive line is the toughest transition from college to the NFL. Those are the strongest of the strong that you're going up against. And it takes some real time to get used to that. So, having that experience under your belt, I think is really necessary. So those guys are two guys, even McCormick himself are some guys that I think could go a lot earlier than expected. I'm thinking maybe McCormick I could see sneaking into the 3rd round. Greenfield, someone that could probably sneak into the 4th round.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go ahead and get into it. So I have it broken down by the testing groups. So we've got the defensive linemen and the linebackers, and then we'll kind of move forward with the DBs, so on and so forth. So let's go ahead and get right into it with maybe the biggest winner of the entire combine, Florida State defensive tackle Braden Fisk. 6'4", 292 pounds. The size is not ideal necessarily, but an absolute freak. Ran a 4.78, had a really good vert, and 26 on the bench, which I thought was pretty impressive as well. I really liked everything that he did. A guy who I did a spotlight on just on Thursday. A really good pass rusher. Excellent timing. And a really good pass rusher, but I really liked how he tested it. How much do you think he boosted his stock?
I mean, this is someone that we were already looking at as probably a day 2 pick at this point. I tweeted something the other day, more satirical than anything, but I said that I think that Braden Fisk could be one of those selections that the Detroit Lions could look at number 29, and people absolutely hated that. So I love the fact that I tweeted that out, that people hated it. But listen, we've seen it happen before. This is someone that he's coming off of back-to-back 6-sack seasons. So you know that the pass rushing production is there. I don't think we understand watching him move through those drills. Guys his size aren't supposed to move the way that he does. I think he's going to be incredibly explosive on the inside. Someone that I think would probably be better fit in an odd front, maybe someone that could play the 5 or the 7. But either way, the NFL seems to be transitioning to smaller 3-tech defensive tackles. So even in an even front, he'd be fine. He's explosive. I mean, we were kind of high on him to begin with, but the combine really, it started at the Senior Bowl, and then the combine just like completely blew him up. We're looking at a lock day 2 pick.
You talked about that Lions idea, and I told you, well, I commented on the tweet, and I was like, yeah, I actually really, really like that idea. I think he could sneak in round 1 because he is so explosive. And we kind of saw with the Elijah Cansey last year, undersized interior guy who tested out incredibly, and just his stock and the buzz around him continued to grow to where by the time we got to the draft last year, I don't think there was any question if Elijah Cansey was going to be a 1st-round pick. I'm not saying he's a Elijah Cansey type athlete, but he tested out really, really well. His explosiveness is very impressive. And I think he went from my number 8 defensive tackle up into the top 5. He is going to be one of the most sought after defensive tackle prospects in this class. I think he had a really, really good showing on day 1.
Yeah. What I'm looking at, last point I'll say about this is really what I'm looking at. I think what people need to realize, or at least in my case, what I look at more than the 40 time for these bigger guys, the I'm not talking about the linebackers. I'm talking about the true D tackles, the true defensive ends, and the offensive linemen. The 40 time is nice. I'm looking at that 10-yard split.
Yeah.
And that is a very impressive 10-yard split from a defensive tackle of his size. So that's where you could see the explosiveness, and he's got it. He's got it.
Yeah, he absolutely has it. Next up, Tyler Davis. Coming into the year, Tyler Davis was one of those my guys coming in. I'm like, this guy is explosive. At least on tape, he looked explosive in 2022. And bad Senior Bowl, and then I think a pretty rough combine. 5 second 40, 1.72 10-yard split. Didn't really show out in the explosiveness drills with the vert or the broad. The reps on the bench, 29. That's impressive. He's very strong. But overall, I was pretty underwhelmed with Tyler Davis, a guy that I thought could have gone in day 2. I think he's probably a late day 3 guy at this point.
Besides for the top 3 consensus defensive tackles in the group, which I would say, I think we could both agree, not in any particular order, Byron Murphy, Devondre Sweat, and Jerzon Newton are those 3 guys. Really, the defensive tackle class has completely flipped on its head. We were thinking of guys like Mason Smith. We were looking at Chris Jenkins, Tyler Davis guys, as those guys that are going to round out that top 5. And a lot of these guys, even though Mason Smith still had a great combine, we'll probably talk about him very, very soon, they're still probably day 3 guys. And I think Davis is going to be someone that is, I'm looking at him as like how do I put this? I'm trying to think for the right defensive lineman to kind of categorize his impact in the NFL. I'm thinking of a Maurice Hurst. I'm thinking of someone that had that first round potential, a little bit different. Tyler Davis kind of squandered it on his own with his athletic numbers. Hurst I believe he had a heart condition or some kind of condition that put him down the board, but going to be an impactful player. Maybe might stick somewhere for a long period of time, but I think he's going to be someone that's solid, but he really just kind of nuked his draft stock. The Senior Bowl was, we just talked about it with Fisk. It was the complete opposite with Tyler Davis. And this is a fine combine. That's what I'll say. It's a fine combine. Like you said, the explosion numbers with the vertical and the broad are kind of The shuttle is but this is a very solid combine for someone that needed to have a great combine to boost that stock again.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I think around that day 3 range is probably where we see Tyler Davis go at this point. You just mentioned him. Well, there he is. It's Mason Smith. It's not so much how he tested. I thought he tested out pretty well. 5.01 seconds. It's the size. The big question with Mason Smith, because as a true freshman, he looked like he was going to be a surefire top 10 pick. Yeah. He was absolutely incredible. This guy is extremely explosive off the edge as a defensive tackle. They moved him around. But what I was impressed with was a 6'5", 306 pounds. The arm length, which we don't have listed, was very, very impressive. He is a guy that we'll see what he ends up being, but the upside is there. Had a ACL injury, I believe, his sophomore season.
Yes.
Really hurt he was out the rest of the year. And we really didn't see the production on full display at LSU for his last season, but the athletic upside is there. This is a guy that I actually think could be a 3rd-round pick because people are going to fall in love with just how explosive, the size, and just how moldable he is. He's still a really young player. Mm-hmm. Mason Smith, I thought, really helped his draft stock this week.
Yeah, something that a lot of people don't take into consideration, at least in my experience, is the toolsy aspect of a player's game. So let's take Chop Robinson, for instance, right? Someone that has all the tools to be a Micah Parsons type of player. I'm going to go that crazy with it because we've seen the explosiveness. Yeah. It's off the charts, the explosiveness, and he tested out like that too. Teams are more inclined to take those guys that haven't figured it out and have the tools. Mason Smith is someone that not only has the tools, he's got freakish strength. Which is why I'm surprised he didn't do the bench press, because I think he could have led the defensive tackles in bench press. That was surprising to me. But on the flip side, this is someone that is an incredibly strong player. He's got the functional play strength, and he has the size and the tools. So this is someone I absolutely agree with you in terms of maybe before the combine. This is someone that you're looking at 4th, maybe even 5th round. definitely could come into the third round consideration. I'm thinking someone like the Bengals
Yep, that's exactly what came to
could
mind.
really benefit from getting someone like Mason Smith down the board. He's someone that definitely benefited from the combine.
Yeah, and we know the Bengals love that LSU pipeline as it is. That was the team that came to mind as well. I could even see, I mean, this one is maybe a bit of a stretch. A team like Kansas City at the number 64 pick, like I could see him sneaking into the very back end of the second, early third, because of just how toolsy he is.
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because a lot of people are quick to look at position where people are drafted. So you look at Mason Smith, say he does get taken number 64 overall to the Kansas City Chiefs. Wow, that is someone that is a top 100 player. Didn't think that he was going in round 2. Okay. What you have as a top 100 is different than the NFL team. So the NFL team knows that he's probably not going to be there by the time that their next pick rolls around. They'd rather use that pick on that player. So I 100% agree with you there as well, where it's like, you know what? He could be, if they really like him that much and they know that he's not going to be there with their third round pick, take him now. It's a need. Take him now.
Yeah, absolutely. Trevon Wallace getting into the linebacker groups now. What really impressed me was the 40 time. I believe he had the third or fourth fastest 40 for the linebacker positions. Very explosive with both the broad and the vert. And a guy that I will be doing a full video on Wednesday, but a guy that when I turned on the tape initially, I was like a little bit slow. It seems not really the most explosive, but he answered a lot of my questions with him. And he's probably in that conversation for one of the 5 best linebackers in the class because he can cover incredibly well. He turns, he can play zone, play man. And if we could see him improve on his run defense, you could see Trevon Wallace be a really good linebacker in the NFL.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. One thing that I'll kind of revert to with those statements is if you're not seeing the explosiveness on the game tape, it's hard to imagine that it's going to translate into the NFL because of the combine. See, this is the flaw that I have with the combine. I do think I agree that this is someone that boosted their draft stock. And according to NFL.com, he's going to be at number 20 to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah.
The ridiculous mock draft that was. But, you know, look at these numbers. These numbers are great. 10-yard split, great. Vertical, almost 38 inches. Awesome. So my one question is kind of the same as yours. Can that explosiveness translate? Because if you don't see it on tape, hard to imagine that he's just going to flip a switch once he goes to the NFL. But this is encouraging for Trevon Wallace. We didn't see that explosiveness. Now we know that he has those explosive characteristics where he can explode off of the ball. So some might think that he's a little bit undersized. 6'1", 237 pounds is not undersized for today's NFL. Listen, that narrative changed when Telvin Smith was a Pro Bowl player for the Jaguars at 6'3", 215 pounds. There's no such thing as an undersized linebacker anymore. Gary Brackett, I'll even go as far for the Indianapolis Colts. Gary Brackett was someone that was 5'10", 230 pounds.
Yeah.
You know, it's you can play the position quite well, and he's someone that can cover very well. So I don't think the explosiveness will be an issue, but if we don't see it on tape, hard to imagine it translates to the NFL.
Yeah, absolutely. This one hurt me. Marius Liapu from Notre Dame. I remember sitting in an airport, turned on this dude's tape, and I texted you immediately. I'm like, this Notre Dame linebacker is really good. And the numbers just don't. This is a bit of the opposite of Trevon Wallace, I think. 4.64 40, 1.59 split. This is a guy who's extremely explosive on tape. Like, really, really explosive. But the numbers just didn't show it. I'm not really sure what to make of it. A lot of people had him probably in that 4th, 5th round range. I don't know how much he drops from there, but I think the numbers were a little discouraging for a player that we knew was explosive and super quick to the ball. I was a little bit surprised by that.
Yeah, the split and the 40 time don't really add up because that's one of the better splits, if I'm not mistaken, from the linebacker group. So hard to imagine how that adds up. That split is usually more towards like a 4.5, 4.52, something around there. But yeah, very, very disappointing. I'm disappointed in the fact that he didn't get the chance to, participate in any of the other drills, because that's something that you would make up with a solid 3-cone or a solid 20-yard shuttle, stuff like that. So very disappointing. I read at least that he did well in interviews, so that's maybe something that he's going to just carry with him. That the tape doesn't lie. I
Yeah.
mean, the explosive numbers aren't there, but like we just talked about with Wallace, if the numbers are there and he didn't test well for the 40, maybe he knew something that we didn't. Maybe he's hurt. We don't know. You know what I mean? It's better not to chance it. So yeah, but I can't imagine in a situation where his draft stock doesn't take a hit from the 40 time, especially for the size. That's a nice compact linebacker, 6'2" to 234. But yeah, I agree with you. It's a little bit of a hit for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Payton Wilson.
Wow.
I mean, you knew it was coming. One of the best linebackers coming into the day, and Adrian Cooper's not on here, but Adrian Cooper had a very nice day.
That's my guy.
Those two are 1A, 1B on who is the better linebacker. Some like Cooper, some like Wallace. I think Payton Wilson running the 4.43 at 6'4", 233 is absolutely ridiculous. I believe it was the Wake Forest game where he had that insane track down tackle where he's just, I don't know which game it was off the top of my head, but it's a highlight that goes around for Wilson all the time. Explosive, fast. The injuries are the concern, so obviously we don't have access to the medicals, but I haven't heard anything negative about his medicals too much. Had a lot of injuries at NC State, but I was really impressed with Payton Wilson.
Yeah, this is first off, this has to be one of the better all-time linebacker performances in combine history. And I know that sounds crazy to say, but I mean, there is just he had nothing left to prove. After the 40 was like, all right, we know exactly what we need to know. Very heady player. He's a very, very smart, very intelligent player. And that's very evident throughout his team interviews as well. This is someone, I'm not going to lie saying this seems like a very Dallas Cowboys pick at the back end of the first round.
I'm glad you said it because my next question was, do you think he boosted himself in a first round consideration? Because I do. I think you could really talk me into, similar to Jack Campbell last year, who after a good combine went in the first. I can see Wilson slide into the first.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know that the Dallas Cowboys are a team that aren't afraid to go and get their guy regardless of who else is on the board. If that's their guy, that's their guy. And it's hard to imagine someone like Payton Wilson with the explosive numbers and just the game tape itself and the football IQ. It's hard to imagine a situation where he doesn't succeed at the NFL level. Yeah. So, I mean, he kind of knew it going in. He was like, I'm just going to show teams, like how good I am. And he certainly backed it up. And this is someone that I think propelled himself into first round consideration at the very least.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you there. Cedric Grey, another guy that, again, plays pretty quick on tape. I felt like the bench, not really the strongest player, 17 reps, not great. He's got good size, but didn't run as well as I thought he would have. Again, similar to, I don't think he had a bad combine, but I definitely think that it was underwhelming for the player that we thought Cedric Grey was going to be coming into the week.
Yeah, I agree with you. This is a combine that didn't show me anything more, didn't show me anything less of what Grey is. I don't think his stock takes a necessary hit. The thing that I think is this is a weaker linebacker class. Cedric Grey is someone that's considered a top 5 linebacker in the class. We could all agree on that. Watching the Payton Wilsons, the Adrian Coopers, the Trevon Wallaces do as well as they did, that's what kind of kills the draft stock a little bit for Cedric Grey, where it's not so much like the player himself, great player.
Yeah.
But everyone else just showed us a little bit more on maybe if I was torn between Cedric Grey and Trevon Wallace right now, I'd probably take Wallace over Grey. Yeah. And that's where his draft stock is probably going to take a hit.
Yeah, I agree with you there. We'll see what ends up happening. I still think Grey is a good linebacker and probably a 4th rounder, probably if I had to guess. Getting into the edge rushers, yeah. I mean, we're not going to spend too much time on Dallas Turner because we knew this guy was a top 15 pick coming into the week. But these athletic numbers are absolutely ridiculous. A 4.46, 1.5 split. The vert and the broad were very impressive. Incredible size for an outside linebacker, 6'3", 247, great arm length. I mean, I have him right now. I mean, I think it's 1A, B, C between Latu, Verse, and Turner. But Turner could have separated himself from the rest of them because of just how well he tested. And I mean, we'll get to him in a minute, but Verse as well just tested incredibly as well. So I think we could have put all three of those guys in here. I think they all did really, really well.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on that. And Turner is someone that, I mean, maybe besides for one rep that I saw where he dropped an interception, was the only negative that I could come up with on the the testing. He was fantastic. And this is one of those situations that I was talking about at the beginning of the video where we kind of just confirmed what we already knew. We knew that he was an explosive athlete. We knew that he was going to be someone that's probably going to be a consensus top 15 pick. And he confirmed that with that performance. I would not be surprised in the slightest if he's the first edge rusher taken off the board. It depends on who, maybe at 8 to Atlanta, if they stay there, 9, Chicago, something like that. But he's super explosive off the edge, and he's a great run defender as well, something that we saw, maybe not to the level of Will Anderson Jr., because it's unfortunate that, Dallas Turner is a great Alabama outside linebacker prospect that is coming out a year after Will Anderson Jr., because everyone's going to compare the two. So maybe not as good of a run defender as Will Anderson Jr., but Turner is someone that's just super explosive, and I'm excited to see how high he really goes.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat there. Another guy, Chop Robinson, just the testing again, really, really good. I was more impressed with, we knew he was explosive. We knew he was going to test probably in the 4.4s just based off the tape. The size was a little bit what impressed me. 6'3", 254. He bulked up about 15 pounds from where we saw him last at Penn State. On the other hand, he's got T-Rex arms. It's rough. But overall, I thought he had a nice combine. He, again, confirmed a lot of what we already knew, showed that he could play on a more weight. The arm length is going to be a concern regardless, but I think he is a guy that we've kind of had floating around day 2. I think he probably goes in the first round.
Yeah, this is an incredibly frustrating prospect, and I've kept the consistency throughout the entire draft process, but Chop is someone to me that is just like such a malleable ball of clay that is like, I just want him to go to a situation where like he'll get exactly what he needs. But like you said, the arms are probably the only cause for concern, because when evaluating his tape, I just did a prospect profile on him a couple days ago. So what I noticed in evaluating his tape is he's a little bit of a one-trick pony in terms of his pass rushing, where it's like his cadence and his explosiveness off the snap are there, but it's the same every time. So you're not going to, an offensive tackle in the NFL is going to be able to correct himself right after the first time. So if you get the tackle to overset and then, he rip and dips inside, that tackle's not making the same mistake again. So with those T-Rex arms, I feel bad saying T-Rex arms, but, he does have smaller arms, but those tackles, once they get, their hands on the body, once they get it on the frame, it's very tough for Chop Robinson to disengage from blocks. So that's something that we're going to have to see him probably put all over the defensive alignment to kind of vary his looks. I'd like to see him get a little bit more inside. So like, how UCLA used Latu on the inside on third downs and stuff like that. Even though Chop is 254, I would like to see that as well, like a Tui Pelotu type of player, like what the Chargers did this past year. He was a revelation for them on that interior on third down. So a little bit concerned in terms of that, but this guy's just got the goods to, like we talked about before, tools. This guy's got everything you're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. A guy who we thought had tools, Austin Booker, was really, really disappointing after a really good Senior Bowl where we were like, is this guy a third rounder? I was never one of those people, but there were some people that were like, is he a third rounder? And for him, a guy who is very reliant on his explosiveness and his first step off the line, because he is still very raw, doesn't have a ton of pass rush moves. For him to run a 4.79, which I believe was the second slowest for the edge groups, and a 1.67 10-yard split, was very, very underwhelmed with what Austin Booker put out there in Indianapolis.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to let you take the cake on that one because you had been someone, I will, of course, give credit where credit's due. You texted me a couple weeks ago when you did the Austin Booker your player spotlight on him, and you said, you know what, I don't really see it with him. And these numbers are, I don't want to say alarming. That's kind of a stretch to say something like that, but these are numbers that you see from someone like a traditional 4-3 edge that has maybe 35 more pounds on his frame.
Exactly what I was going with. He's undersized, and that's the other thing.
Like 6'4", 240, love the frame. But to counteract my own point, that is a frame that you can add more mass to.
Yeah.
So if he can get up to that 255, 260, I know that's crazy to say, but it's gonna have to take place over the next couple of seasons. You can't add all that naturally. But at the same time, I could see where a team might say, you know what, yeah, we're going to take a chance on this guy, but I don't think it's any time in day 2 now, at least.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked about it. There's a guy who's very reliant on his explosiveness. I think another reason why this is going to be alarming, he's really only got 1 season of experience under his belt. And you want to see a guy who tests out of this world athletically, if you're going to even think about taking him day 2. Undersized, bad numbers, less experience. I think he's a day 3 guy pretty firmly right now. And a guy who I wanted to see succeed, but it just didn't end up working out this week in Indy. Maybe he has a better pro day, but we'll see what ends up happening there. Jared Verse, go for it.
I don't want to say, we talked about this before we started recording, where people take victory laps on guys that are consensus, first round picks, and saying, I knew about this guy before anyone else. I did say last year that Jared Verse was a first round pick last year. Yeah. And he only confirmed that again this past season and again at the combine. I mean, these numbers are unbelievable. These are shockingly similar numbers to Micah Parsons. If you go look at Micah Parsons' combine numbers, they're
very similar to Myles Garrett.
It's very close. That's what's like. You hate to be that guy that does the comparisons, you know what I mean? But you got to like what you see from Jared Verse here. And I love the fact that he came in at 254 pounds. I was a little nervous about the build 268 pounds from Florida State. I thought maybe that would kind of weigh him down a little bit more. No pun intended. But 254, extremely explosive. I'm so glad. I know that, 0.02 of a second doesn't mean a lot to other people. But after his first 40 time was 4.6, I was like, that's great. Love to see him run a little bit faster the second time. And we did get that. We got into the 4.5s there. The split is nice. The vertical's fantastic. The broad. And you know what really made me happy? He competed in every single combined.
I was going to say that. You don't see that very often. He did it. He came out and he impressed in every single drill. 31 reps was the most by far for the edge group. And again, very comparable to Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett, I think, is the best athlete on the face of the planet right now. But Jared Verse just athletically answered a lot of questions. And like I said with Dallas Turner, it's a 1A, 1B, 1C. We don't have Latu as a winner. He ran a 4.64, came out really nicely. He interviewed really well. I mean, I think all 3 of those guys are going to be fantastic players at the next level. But Jared Verse, I think, had himself a really good day on Thursday. Braylon Trice, however, yikes. I mean, this is a guy who has led the FBS in pressures each of the last 2 seasons, and almost a 4.8 was very, very disappointing. Not explosive with a 32.5-inch vert. Came in a lot smaller than we thought, too. 6'4", 240. He's a guy who played at 265 at Washington. He was nearly 30 pounds smaller than what we thought at Washington. Really, really bad day. On Trice.
I'll be honest with you. A couple months ago, when I wanted to do my prospect profile on Trice, and I turned on the tape a little bit more extensively, because at first you look at the numbers, you look at highlights, all that kind of stuff, and then after you look at that, you dive into, or at least that's my process. You go into the tape, see really how those stats translate to the actual game of football. He was not it for me. He's someone, I don't know how, I'll be quite honest with you, don't know how he led the FBS in pressures. The guy, to me, anytime he went up against a semi-decent offensive tackle, was starched every single time. Yeah. It was not impressive to me at all, and these numbers confirm it. I mean, the 240 was the most shocking to me. I believe I'm going to say 265 was probably more of his playing weight. He was billed at 275.
Yeah.
So 35 pounds. And I don't, was it 240 or was it 245 that he weighed in? Irregardless, whatever, it doesn't matter. A lot smaller. And listen, if you're going to come in at 240, like we just talked about with Austin Booker, you got to run a lot faster than that, dude. Like, that is not nearly explosive enough for me. For someone that now has an outside linebacker type of build in an odd front,
yeah,
it's not very impressive. So I didn't really get it on tape, and now the numbers kind of confirm it.
I'm very curious where he falls in the draft because a lot of people had him as a second-round guy. I don't think I've taken this guy in the second.
Some people
I don't know if I take him in
a
the
day 3
third.
pick now.
He might be a day 3 pick. He really might. And just how far you can fall. I mean, this is what the combine is.
That picture is so perfect for like what we just described.
I know, it really is. But pretty rough day for Braylon Trice. Moving on to the nope, not yet. Cedric Johnson, incredible vert. Similar to Chop Robinson, we were talking about this the other day. Very raw player, very toolsy guy, hasn't put it together at Ole Miss. I remember watching him last year and texting you. I'm like, this Cedric Johnson guy's got a little bit of juice to him. I kind of like what he could be. I thought he tested out really well across the board. Strong, explosive, good size. I don't really think there's any negatives to point to Cedric Johnson from the week.
Yeah, I was excited. This is one of the players that I was really, really happy that kind of did really well. So like these aren't eye-popping numbers to me. The vert is nice. Love that. Everything else is just super solid. And that really made me happy because this is someone, like you said, a little bit inexperienced, also didn't really put it all together. Someone that you could see either really, really rising through the boards or falling flat on his face at the NFL Combine. And Johnson was someone that I still think he's probably a day 3 pick. Maybe we're looking at round 4 or 5. But someone that I think is going to have a solid role on an NFL defense.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Now we're getting into the DBs. CB1, yeah. I mean, that's all I'm going to ask. I don't think a 4.33 I wasn't expecting him to run that fast. I really, really wasn't. I thought he was like a 4.4 guy, maybe. For him to have the second fastest time for DBs, I was like, oh, yeah. He might be the best defensive back in this class. I know Terrion Arnold had himself a pretty solid week as well, but Quan Mitchell answered every single question at the Senior Bowl, at the Combine, and the game tape backs it up. Quan Mitchell is a special cornerback prospect.
Yeah, we've been on him like white on rice for a real long time now, and I'll give us both the credit for that. One thing I will say, for me, I'm not there yet to call him CB1 only because Terrion Arnold is someone that I hate to bring up the competition factor because there are some things that you just can't teach. You cannot teach what Quan Mitchell has. But when you're also going up against, a Northwestern quarterback that threw 4 interceptions to him in one game, that I'm sure that has to factor into it. He has those unteachable intangibles. There's no doubt about that. The one thing that separates me is a player that plays in a Nick Saban defense is an incredibly smart football player. We see that with both Alabama cornerbacks and Kool-Aid McKinstry and Terrion Arnold. And Arnold is someone that could stop on a dime, like literally a dime. Like, and that is something that is so valuable in the NFL with these quick hitter routes. I think Terrion Arnold is going to be a stud. So I think the competition factor and the smarts on the defensive side of the football are the only thing that really holds him over Mitchell. But these are two fantastic football players. And I can't say enough good things about Quan Mitchell. Every time we want him to do something to make him a better football player, he proves it time and time again. And after the Senior Bowl, what did we say? We both said it. We want to see him in press man. We want to see how he does in one-on-one. He blew it out of the water on the Senior Bowl. We wanted to see how fast he could run. He blew us out of the water. This is someone that's a superstar in the making.
Yeah, I am 100% with you. Feels kind of Tariq Woolen-ish in terms of just a guy that we all knew was athletic, and he just continued to answer questions in that pre-draft process. I think he's a better prospect than Woolen was, but Quan Mitchell, top 20 lock, I think, at this point. Kayden King, how to kill your draft stock in a month and a half by Kayden King. It's sad. It's really sad. This was a guy who we had early on in the year, number 2 corner. You had him as a number 1 corner.
I did. I'll be the first. I'm going to be the first one. I'm going to take my licks right now. I don't think that there's, maybe besides for Matt Corral, there hasn't been a draft prospect that I've been more dead wrong on than Kayden King. And I mean, sure, he could turn it around and he could play great in the NFL. Number one thing, the size. 5'11", 200 for someone that was probably going to be a slot corner at the NFL. Right away, that crosses it right off the table. We're looking at someone that's probably going to have to transition to safety. Anytime that you have to transition to a different position because of your speed is not a good thing. Yeah. He also got toasted left and right at the Senior Bowl. I mean, we saw a clip of Kayden King, like his controller died, like the batteries died. He stood there and watched Devontae Walker run right past him, and then he reacted. This is someone that I don't know what happened between last year and this year. I'm thinking the Joey Porter Jr. effect really was why he played as well as he did 2 years ago. I don't know. King is just someone that, honestly, I don't want to seem extreme, but he might be in the UDFA category at this point.
I'm with you. I don't know where I would take him. He's slow. He looked like he couldn't cover anybody at the Senior Bowl. Yeah, it's hard because I remembered after the Senior Bowl, I told you and Ian, I dropped him from like my number 8 corner to my number 20, and I got a couple laughs. He's probably even further than that at this point. It was a very disappointing week for Kayden King. But sticking in Penn State, Daquan Hardy I thought was pretty solid. Ran a 4.38, solid splits, pretty explosive. That 42.5-inch vert. Yeah. Very, very impressive. Is he the best corner from Penn State? Let's just get that out of the way.
Yeah, I think so. I think Johnny Dixon is someone that also is pretty decent as well. That's someone that's probably later on the board. But Daquan Hardy is someone that, I mean, you want a slot corner.
Yeah.
5'9", 180. Let's round up to 180. 4'3". You're looking at someone that is I mean, the coverage ability is clearly there. We also did see that at the Senior Bowl. He did have some couple really, really nice reps there as well. You know, this is great. I didn't think that he was going to run anywhere near 4.38. So that's super impressive. 42.5-inch, like you said, really, and a 10.6 broad jump from someone that's 5'9".
Yeah.
I am 5'9". I could not see myself jumping 10 feet 6 inches. So it's a little bit of an insight there. But yeah, someone that definitely improved his draft stock and someone that is probably going to be a halfway decent slot corner at the next level.
Yeah, absolutely. I think those numbers are fantastic. Elijah Jones, I think I'm gonna turn on the tape again for Elijah Jones because it was a guy that didn't really see it with him when I turned it on for Boston College. But I mean, these numbers are really impressive. The size, 6'1", 185, I think is great. The explosiveness, 42.5-inch verts, a 10.11 broad jump, 4.4 speed. Not bad. I mean,
no, that's fine.
Yeah, I think he tested out really, really well. As a guy who a lot of people had as a riser potentially for the week, and I think he did what he came to do.
Yeah, I think we're looking at a day 2 pick now, maybe a late day 2 pick. I mean, these numbers are great. And he's someone that if you pair these numbers with his instincts and ball skills that were clearly evident on tape, you know, you're getting a pretty decent player here. This is someone that I think could be a boundary impact player right away. Yeah. And, you know, one thing I will say, I was curious about him a few weeks ago. I did turn on some tape and I was impressed. Didn't really go further into it after that, but we did have a discussion with Ian Cummings. He did mention Elijah Jones, and he said that is someone to look out for as well. And kudos to Elijah Jones. He really did show out. Definitely improved his draft stock. Someone that was probably going to be maybe a 4th round pick. I think he's definitely in consideration for late day 2 now.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Look, we're going to get a lot of hate for this because he ran a 4.28, but 6'1", 173 for Nate Wiggins, who it's so tiny. On top of that, he had the injury, which I'm not going to dock him for the injury. You can't really prevent
it. That I don't care.
173, because we texted each other. I was like, who are your losers in the DBs? And you said Wiggins. I had to do a double take at the size. I'm like, 173?
Yeah. You know what really, first off, the way that he was billed at Clemson was a 197 player. 6'1", 197 is acres different than 6'1", 173. Now, don't get me wrong. We saw a first rounder last year in Emmanuel Forbes that we were both quite high on at 166. Now, I'm not saying that weight is not, oh, well, that's it. He's Emmanuel Forbes. If you want to play at the next level on the boundary, it's going to be really difficult to be aggressive at 173. I'm thinking maybe whoever takes him kind of goes the Trent McDuffie route, where McDuffie is an all-pro slot corner at this point in his career. I could see that for Nate Wiggins, especially with that incredible 40 time. That is like 4.28. When he said that he wanted to come out and run a 4.25, I'm like, yeah, okay, he's probably going to run like a 4.5. You know what I mean? Like, and he ran a 4.28, and I was very, very impressed with that. But the size, just really disappointing on that. And you know what really, the one thing about the speed that I really like, look at that 10-yard split and then look at the 4.28. You're looking at someone that definitely got faster as time went on. You're not looking at someone that plateaued at that 10 yards and then either slowed down or just stayed the same. He got faster as the time went on. So super encouraging. He's got great recovery speed, kind of like with the Quan Mitchell thing where, he ran 4.33, but I don't think his split was anywhere near what a 4.33 should be. So that recovery speed is clearly there for Nate Wiggins. That was a concern coming into the combine. So it's definitely there, but the size is just, I'm a little bit more on the neutral side for Nate Wiggins.
I'm there too.
But I'm kind of like, it's like a 55-45 where I kind of feel like he's a little bit of a, I was going to say a little bit of a loser, but he's a little bit of a combine loser because of that size.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I don't think he hurt his stock, really. I still think he's going to be a first rounder.
Yeah.
I don't think he helped his stock as much. We knew he was fast. I don't think we knew he was this fast, but
yeah,
very interesting stuff there. This one pains both of us because
it hurts me. It's like a knife through the chest with this one.
Cam Kitchens, look, the 40 time for a 4.65 for a guy who on tape is flying all over the field. I was pretty disappointed in the explosiveness drills, though. The vert and the broad, I think, are pretty underwhelming for him. I don't think he did very much good for his stock at all.
Yeah, the one thing that really bothers me is the back-to-back poor performances. The Senior Bowl, he didn't really play that well. He didn't perform that well either. Here's what I think we're getting with this. The broad, really bad. Really bad. The second worst in the last 10 years or something like that. It's really bad. And I don't even think that's for most of the positions. That's for almost all the positions. It was bad.
It's bad.
That's pretty shocking. And what I think we're looking at is a Kyle Hamilton effect from a couple seasons ago, where Kyle Hamilton was an explosive player all over the field that was making tackles left and right, was a great ball hawk, ran a 4.59. I'm not saying that they're on the same level. I think Kitchens plays a lot faster than like 2 times as fast than the 4.65. So these numbers are concerning. Also, him coming in at 5'11" after he was billed as someone that was 6'3", 215.
Yeah.
The size, the explosive numbers aren't there. But like I said earlier in the video, the tape doesn't lie. This is someone that's definitely a ball hawk. And he definitely has incredible instincts. So I don't think this is too much of a fall for him, especially when you got teams that are starving for safeties. Like at number 58, you got the Green Bay Packers right there. I think that's a prime spot for him. So I still think he's a round 2 guy. He might slide slightly, but these numbers are just really not great.
Yeah, I might sell a couple shares in Cam Kitchens, but I'm not selling my stock. I've still got some faith that Cam Kitchens could turn it around. We're going to continue with the Miami safeties that hurt their draft stock. And James Williams, he's hard though, because he might be a linebacker. And if these are linebacker numbers, I think they're solid linebacker numbers.
You don't,
but the safety numbers aren't great either.
You know what? The linebacker numbers aren't great either. This is someone that's probably going to be a Jamal Adams type of player. We're looking at a box safety that could blitz.
Yeah.
So that's what we're really looking at this point. And that pains me because when I was watching Cam Kitchens, I'm like, who is this James Williams character? And he might be the better safety out of the two. We haven't seen that. Again, the 2 Miami safeties really killed their draft stock between the combine and the Senior Bowl. I mean, James Williams, it was like taking candy from a baby in one-on-ones.
It really was.
Offered zero coverage ability whatsoever. So we're looking at someone that's probably going to be painfully one-dimensional at the next level. and that looks like a box safety that could blitz.
Yeah. I mean, I think the 40 time for a linebacker would be okay. It's still a little bit on the slow end. Maybe you want to be in the 4.5s. The vert and the broad, though, are rough numbers.
Yeah, it was not a good day for the Miami safeties.
Not at all. But for the Utah safety, night and day difference from the Miami to Utah nightlife. Cole Bishop, I thought was awesome. 6'2", 206, ran a 4.45, which I'm going to be honest, I did not see that one coming when I watched Cole Bishop's tape. Great 10-yard split, explosive. A guy that a lot of people really seem to like. I just never could seem to get there with Cole Bishop. The numbers are really, really impressive, though.
I think we're looking at going on the narrative that Cooper DeJean is a safety. I'm thinking that we're fully looking at safety 3 right here in the draft at this point.
Interesting. So
Bo Braid is someone that also could be in that category as well. So I'm kind of torn between the two. But,
who's in that category?
Bo Braid.
Bo Braid. Yeah, Bo Braid's up there for me. I like Bo Braid a little bit more than Cole Bishop.
Yeah. But Bishop's got some great numbers here. And the size is what I love. On tape, you don't see 6'2", 206.
Yeah.
So I was honestly thinking more 5'11", like 195. 6'2", 206 is awesome to see. This is someone that could play, Buffalo nickel or in a sub package as a linebacker as well. So with that size, very, very promising. This is someone that, is a great all-around player. And I think, like I said, I do think that he has catapulted himself in the top 3 safety consideration. Either way, because if DeJean is more of a corner, then he's still in the top 3 with Bo Braid and Tyler Nubin. And either way, if DeJean is a safety, then he could probably still be in the top 3 either. It's a toss-up between him and Braid.
Would you have Bishop now ahead of Kinchins?
Yeah, I think so. I really do. At this point, just so much more versatile. Like you're looking at someone in Kinchins you're looking at someone that probably can't cover tight ends or running backs at this point. You're looking at a zone ball hawk at that point, and Bishop, someone that has the speed to kind of do it all.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm there yet, but we didn't talk about him. I don't even know if he tested. Tyler Nubin might be one of the big winners because the safety group wasn't great. I think he is probably solidly the number 1 safety in the class if it's not Cooper DeJean.
Yeah.
A guy that I turned on the tape, DAndre Taylor Demerson, excellent Shrine Bowl, excellent. But this guy has made himself so much money over the last month. Super fast, explosive, and it shows up on tape. He plays this fast for Texas Tech. Explosive, like I said. I really liked how he tested, and I think this is a name that you're not familiar with. People are going to get familiar with DTD a little bit more.
The 2 Texas Tech safeties had outstanding combines. Yeah. And we want to talk about Tyler Owens too. Besides for not believing in space, he had a 12.
Out of space. That's why he doesn't believe in it.
Yeah, he jumps over space at that point. But he was incredible as well. I mean, athletically, his tape doesn't really show all that athleticism. He's more of an athlete. DTD is someone that shows on tape as well the athleticism. This is a perfect example of someone that was probably going to be a late day 3 pick that could probably catapult himself into early day 3 consideration at this point. Yeah. Fantastic combine. He's a good player as well. It's nice. It's a 2-for-1 special between him and Tyler Owens. Whenever you watch either one, you always get the other one. So
he's the guy that when I turned on the tape, I was really impressed, and he's really helped his stock. Strong Shrine Bowl performance, and I think an even stronger combine. Really impressed with what Demerson ended up doing. The tight ends didn't really see a lot. Tip Raymond, besides for, birds aren't real, which, you guys can be the judge of that. Are they? He's 6'5", 271, but athletically, this is a guy that we thought was more a blocking type of tight end. He looks like he can do a lot more than just block. Maybe the 3-cone, 7 seconds, not amazing. The vert, not amazing, but ran incredibly well, I felt. And strong player.
Yeah.
I saw a tweet that somebody said that they think he could go in the 2nd round. I'm like, no. But I could see him in that late round 3 consideration now because I thought he looked pretty good at the combine.
Yeah, the Illinois offense doesn't really allow the tight end to do too much. So we're looking at someone earlier before we started recording. I mentioned that I love players that haven't hit their ceiling yet in terms of they could get better. You have to think that Tip Raymond's only scratching the surface, especially with those athletic numbers, the strength, the 20-yard shuttle is really important to me.
Yeah.
4.26 is a great number for someone that's 6'5", 271. Great blocker as well. This is someone, last year we were on stream together. We were on live stream together when Sam Laporta got taken with the second pick in the second round. And we said, what the hell is going on here in Detroit? I don't think that it's so out of the question that someone like Tip Raymond can get drafted in the second round. With those numbers, the blocking ability, this is someone in a NFL where after the top 12 tight ends, it's kind of a toss-up whoever you're throwing out there as your starting tight end. Raymond's someone that probably could be a top 20. I'm going to go out there and say a top 20 tight end right off the bat.
Yeah, I could see it. Another guy who I really need to turn on the tape a little bit more to really get a better evaluation of him, but I thought he looked really good. Theo Johnson's another guy who looked really good. Another guy very similar to Tip Raymond, 6'6", 259. I think it's great size for the tight end position. Ran well, explosive. The 20-yard shuttle, he had a better shuttle than Raymond did at 4.19. I mean, Theo Johnson had one of the best RAS scores for tight ends on the day. He was really, really impressive all around.
Yeah, and you know what I love? The confidence, too. He came in here during interviews and said, I'm just going to come here to show everyone how athletically gifted I am. And he absolutely delivered. So, number one, love the confidence. Number two, love the fact that he delivered on everything that he said. The bench doesn't even bother me because this is a massive human being. You know that he's just physically strong at 6'6", 260 pounds as it is. The bench doesn't really mean too much for me. Raymond is someone that I was very impressed with the bench, but I wouldn't have thought anything different of him if he didn't. Johnson is incredible. This is someone. Remember how last year Brenton Strange went in the second round?
That's where I was going.
Theo Johnson, someone that was probably like a fourth, fifth round consideration before this. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he has a Brenton Strange type of strange rise to the second or third round.
Yeah, that's literally exactly where I was going to go with that. But I thought a lot of outside of Kayden King, I thought Penn State had a pretty good week all around.
Poor guy.
Audric Estime was a guy that 4.71 was a little underwhelmed by the speed with Estime. I feel like he plays faster than that. Not a great 10-yard split. Strong running back, 23 reps, I thought was solid for the running back position. We know this guy is a bruising back. He's probably, to me, I know some people really like Audric Estime. I never really got there with him. He's like an A.J. Dillon type of running back to me. Just a guy who's going to be a powerful guy. Yeah, I think he kind of answered that at the combine. Pretty underwhelming numbers all around from him.
I think you absolutely nailed it on the head in terms of the A.J. Dillon comp. That's exactly what I see here. Someone that's probably not going to offer you too much as a receiving back. He's not going to be that guy that runs outside the tackles. He's going to run inside the box, and he's going to run straight up the gut. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, listen, in today's NFL, when you basically got a two-headed monster in every single backfield, you need that yin and yang type of thing where it's like you got someone that's shifty that could run to the outside, and you got someone that could run over the linebackers up the middle. And that's exactly what Estime is. He's someone that, I don't know, some people had him at running back 1. Never saw that.
No.
Someone that I think is going to be a perfectly good fourth round, fifth round pick that is going to be that guy that could tote the ball, kind of like a David Montgomery, except with less receiving ability type of player.
I'm there too. To me, it answered what I already believed, but I know for a lot of people, pretty underwhelming week. I know a lot of people really liked Estime. I think he hurt himself a little bit this week. Isaac Guerendo, this dude, if you don't know, played at Wisconsin. I believe he played with Jonathan Taylor at Wisconsin, to be completely honest. Really been in a dual backfield system since he came into college. Not very many carries. This guy still got a lot of tread on the tires and tested out incredibly well. A 4.33, which was I believe it was the fastest for all the running backs.
It is. Yeah.
Had the highest vert, had I mean, all of his numbers are absolutely fantastic. And 6'1", 221 is really, really good size as well. He's probably going to go ahead of Jawar Jordan for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, he could be one of the first five running backs taken off the board, I think, because the tape is good when he gets the ball. He's got limited carries, but I mean, I was really, really impressed with what he did.
You just answered your own question. Limited tread on the tires, 6 foot, 221 pounds, 4.33. This guy's an athletic marvel for the running back position. I mean, he really, truly is. This is someone that I could see, as maybe like not in any of the first couple rounds, but you're looking at like a Ravens, Chargers type of player.
Yep.
That, I mean, these numbers are video game like. They really are. It was really eye popping when these numbers came out, and I think this is someone you absolutely nailed it. I don't think he might be. I think he is a top 5 running back off the board. I mean, this is a super weird running back class.
Yeah.
Where every single position is essentially up for grabs. Some people have Braylon Allen as their number 1. Some people have Bucky Irving. Some people have Will Shipley. I've seen, Guriendo was fantastic. I mean, those numbers are like, I'm like salivating looking at those numbers. He really, I honestly think in terms of height, weight, and like positional, like what everyone else did in the positional group, I think he had one of the most impressive, the top 5 most impressive combines this year.
I think he did as well. He does remind me a little bit of Jonathan Taylor too, and just the way that he runs the football. He's not just this speed guy; he is a powerful back too, and he'll run you over. He's a really good player. I think he absolutely boosted his stock. Trey Benson, again, similar to Dallas Turner and those guys, kind of confirmed what we believed, but a 4.39 speed. That impressed me because the long speed was a question that I had about Trey Benson, and he answered it. I mean, he got faster as time went on, 1.52 split, and ended up finishing with a 4.39. To me, he's the clear-cut running back 1.
Yeah, this is something I've said for months now, and I just out of preference that he was my running back 1. He just seems like the most complete back. Maybe you like Braylon Allen's age a little bit more because, like you said, limited tread. I don't know. Those Wisconsin running backs run a lot.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But Benson is just like an all-around great running back that in a not so great running back class, he definitely stands out as that guy that's probably number 1. I mean, at least I think he's number 1. A lot of people probably see him as number 1 now. He's just complete. He's got the speed. He's got the size, 6 foot, 216 pounds. Great. He's got the explosiveness as well. Nice broad jump for a running back as well. Yeah. I think he absolutely boosted himself into locking in a second-round pick on him.
Yeah, I'm there as well. And then Jalen Wright.
Yeah.
I might be to the point where he might be my running back 2 come draft when it's all said and done, because if you look at the tape on Tennessee, that run against Georgia, he is flying every time he gets the football. Very athletic, just 0 to 60, super quick, it seems. I really, really like him. He's the guy that can run outside the numbers, maybe like a DeAndre Swift kind of back too. I like how he can produce in the receiving games. Jalen Wright was awesome, and I think he is another guy who's probably, I could see him easily being the second running back off the board.
Yeah, I'm going to let you run with that because you basically said everything that I wanted to say, and Tennessee's your team. So and kudos to you as well for quite some time now. It's very hard to differentiate between a legitimate running back prospect and, a not so great running back prospect in this draft class. And since the beginning, since the college football season, you said, I really like this Jalen Wright guy. I think that he is one of the more complete backs. And you said it, I'll give you kudos. And, he performed for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting into the receivers.
Now, I'll say one thing. I want to start this one off. I'll say one thing. Immediately when the size came out, I was like, what a freaking loser. I was like, wow, 5'11", 165 is just no bueno, dude. And I know that we just saw a draft last year where Tank Dell came out. And, that's an exception to the rule. Tank and CJ Stroud have just a very, amazing connection.
Yeah.
But listen, I'll say this. In some YouTube videos, previously. With Lad McConkey being a 4.39 in the 40 and, in the report saying it was somewhere in the 4.5s. You have to understand that with no pads, no one in front of you, a straight line speed is completely different to game speed. I'll say this: Adonai Mitchell, Brian Thomas Jr., and Lad McConkey are three guys that are fast that do not translate fully to the football field. Whereas Brian Thomas is probably like a 4.4 runner, like on the field. Adonai does show that 4.35 speed every once in a while. Xavier Worthy is 0 to 100 in 1 second every single time that he gets open space. This is someone that legitimately, you know what? It doesn't matter that he's 165 because if you put the ball in his hands, no one's touching him because he's running past everyone.
And that's just go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is what I know. We went back and forth, and I just could not get off the Xavier Worthy train. I had him as my running back too, up until about November. I'm like, I just can't. That speed, and he's a fantastic route runner as well. He is a very good separator. He just ran the fastest 40 in the history of the NFL Combine. I mean, this guy is. Some people are saying he could be the fourth receiver off the board after this. I don't know if he's going to go that high with Adonai Mitchell, Brian Thomas Jr. still in this class, and both those guys had absolutely fantastic days as well. I could easily see him being a first-round pick, though. Xavier Worthy is, yes, there's drop concerns, but he was absolutely incredible. I mean, even the vert and the broad, I think those are really, really good numbers as well.
Yeah, you just put him in a situation where you get a strong-armed quarterback. You're looking at the back end of the first round, Buffalo, KC. You get someone that could literally just be like, you know what, I'm just going to sit back and I'm going to throw the ball 70 yards and he'll probably be there waiting for it already. Yeah. There's so much damage that you could do with a boundary receiver like this. And this is something Worthy is not someone that is just going to play in the slot at the next level. He has shown the ability to win on the boundary as well. With the natural separation, forget the speed, his natural shiftiness and separation skills really separate him from a lot. I mean, you just add the 4.21 speed on top of that. Like, you got someone that you kind of don't want him to put on weight in a way because you're like, I don't know if that'll affect his speed. You got someone that in catch and run situations, it's hard to see someone honestly catching him.
And the last thing I'll say, and we've talked about this off camera, if he runs again, I think he runs like a 4.18, a 4.17 because he slowed down at the end. He's gliding. It looks like he's flying, honestly. It was pretty remarkable to see. I don't see how Xavier Worthy is not a winner and the biggest winner, in my opinion, from the entire combine. He was absolutely stellar. Troy Franklin, similar to the Nate Wiggins thing, I think the numbers are fine really all around, but it's the size, 6'2", 176, really, really alarming for Troy Franklin.
The one thing, this would be fine for me. In any other draft class that we're looking at, maybe outside of 2014, if you stick these numbers anywhere else, I'd be like, you know what? Still a first round guy to me. Honestly, I still think he's a first round guy.
Yeah, I'm there too.
But in this draft class, when you got guys like Adonai Mitchell, Xavier Leggett, Brian Thomas, Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison Jr., even some of these guys down the board, look, even Malachi Corley, someone who's 5'11", but he's 208 pounds. You know what I mean? Like, these guys, this size really does matter here. At 176, that could scare a lot of teams off. Let's put this for instance. Why would I take Troy Franklin over Xavier Leggett? If I'm looking for a boundary receiver with speed, Xavier Leggett's got 4.39 speed. He's also a lot bigger than Troy Franklin in terms of not only just weight, in terms of overall bulk. You know what I mean? That's what's going to happen, unfortunately, with this. And I think Troy Franklin's always someone that's teetered between, end of round one and early second round consideration. I don't think that changes. In a similar situation to Cedric Grey, I think that the guys around him did way more than he did. Yeah. And that's really the problem.
Yeah, and I'm there too. I still like Troy Franklin quite a bit of a prospect. Hasn't changed my opinion on him one bit, but the size is pretty concerning for him. A guy whose size I don't think is going to be a problem. I think Texas all around with Xavier Worthy, Tavondre Sweat was fantastic. Byron Murphy had a good week. And then Adonai Mitchell, a 4.34. And if you guys know, I'm a Colts fan. And I've been advocating, pounding my fist, we need a first-round corner. I take it back. This is the guy we need in round one. This is the perfect complement to the offense in terms of what he can do in comparison to the skill set of a Josh Downs and a Michael Pittman Jr. Explosive. I was not expecting him to run a 4.34. When I saw the number, I was like, holy cow, this guy is flying. And I think he might have cemented himself as the number 4 receiver in this class.
Yeah, you also compile all these numbers and add in his tenacity as a blocking receiver. Goes a long way as well. I wouldn't be surprised if you see guys like Ladd McConkey, Roman Wilson, Adonai Mitchell go a lot higher because of their blocking ability as well. So the one concern that we kind of had was we were led to believe that Adonai Mitchell was 195 at 6'4", much more palatable at 6'2", 205. And then you add that speed. Listen, the natural explosiveness was prevalent on tape. It just wasn't consistent. That's the one gripe I have with Adonai Mitchell, where, like I just said with Xavier Worthy, where his speed is translatable on basically every single play. Mitchell doesn't necessarily have that breakaway speed in some of these aspects that I want to see. So I was really surprised with that 4.34. But at the same time, due to his natural separation, his overall speed and his blocking ability, I think he's a first-round lock at this point.
Yeah, I'm there too. And then Keon Coleman, man, I actually don't think he was as big of a loser as a lot of people are going to paint him
I agree.
to be after this. Of the 4.61 is bad, but after they ran the gauntlet drill, he played way faster than that 4.61. And that's just how he is. He plays way faster than this speed. He's an athlete. The size is incredible, though. 6'3", 213. We know this guy is a contested catch guy who is going to be really, really good at the point of attack. I still think Keon Coleman could go in the back end of the first round without a doubt.
Yeah, I'm with you in terms of this isn't as much of a loss as some people are playing it up to be, because what we just said about Adonai Mitchell and Xavier Worthy, the reverse can happen too. We're looking at a slow 40 and going, he plays much faster than that. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like what we're looking at right here with Keon Coleman is like, listen, I'm not going to lie. Even at 6'3", 213, I'm completely fine with a 4.6. Yeah. I'll be honest with you. And like, let's say he plays faster than that. Let's say that's like a 4.54. That's completely fine with me. So
nobody's batting an eye at that.
Yeah, not at all. And a lot of people are looking for a reason to dislike Keon Coleman in this draft class for some reason. People are saying that he's just going to fall into the same old archetype of huge boundary receiver, can't separate. And, the separation does come into question, but he does play a lot faster than the 4.61. And like you said, the gauntlet drill was extremely telling of that.
Yeah, 100%. And then the last guy here, we have come to the end of our road here. It was J.J. McCarthy, similar to Keon Coleman. I don't think it's as bad as people think it was. The size was a lot of people were really impressed that he came in at 6'2", 219, a lot bigger than he looked at Michigan. Didn't really test a lot, but in some of the throwing drills, he just was off. The touch wasn't there. I remember he really struggled throwing to his left. I know that was something that repeatedly showed up at the combine. I think he interviewed well. I'm going to say it. He's probably going to be a top 5 pick based on all of the things that we're hearing from teams and how infatuated they are with the idea of J.J. McCarthy. We know the tools are all there. He threw okay. I don't think he threw amazingly. That's really all there is to it.
Yeah, I think he's more of a neutral than anything. I applaud. A couple things that I really like is that basically in a quarterback class that no one stepped up to throw the ball because they had nothing really to gain from it. J.J. McCarthy had everything to lose by throwing. He could have easily just went with the majority and said, yeah, I'm not doing it. And then we would have had even more questions. Here, I'm not making excuses. He was late on some timing throws. He did struggle to throw to his left. Same time, no chemistry with some of these receivers as well. You have to take that into consideration. Adonai Mitchell even came out and said that he kind of messed up one of the more popular misses that he made. That wasn't even particularly close. He sold way too late on his route. So those timing routes aren't going to be there with guys you don't have chemistry with. The size, love the size. Kind of wanted to see him run the 40-yard dash because I was thinking, Keaton Slovis is someone that I think he ran a 4.55. I was thinking JJ McCarthy was probably going to run a little bit higher than that. I was thinking maybe like 4.52 from McCarthy. I was a little disappointed in that, but I think he had everything to lose from this week, and he came away, like you said, he's probably still going to be a top 5 pick. So he didn't really win, but he didn't lose either.
Yeah, and we don't have any more winners or losers. People are going to talk about Joe Milton. I'm sorry, him throwing the ball 70 yards in shorts doesn't do it for me. I thought Penix, though, I know we're both big Michael Penix guys. I thought he looked good. I thought Bo Nix looked pretty solid as well. I thought a lot of the quarterbacks played well. We could have talked about Brian Thomas Jr., Tez Walker, Xavier Leggett, like a lot of really good receivers. Ladd McConkey is another guy. We left out some guys. So if there's some guys you feel that we left out, be sure to comment down below who you think was a big winner and loser. That's going to do it for us in this video. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you are new. I'll leave the link down to his channels down below. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios.